morning, everyone. Welcome. What is going on? We are live. I'm here with Foyet on this awesome Thursday morning. You can probably still hear it in my voice, but I'm a little under the weather. I got my Papa Bear mug today, but it doesn't have any coffee. I already have my cup. I got some ginger tea, so I might be fast on that mute button just in case I got a cough or do something gross. But Foyet, with that introduction out of the way, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to have you on.
Good. Yourself? Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a while.
So let's start here because we're gonna have to do this giveaway soon, and it's probably gonna be very short. But how was your Super Bowl experience? Did your team win? I know you were anti-Philly, right?
Yeah.
So the team you were against lost.
Yeah.
Cool.
So from that standpoint, yeah.
So yeah, we I don't know if virus is in the house, but we did a last minute kind of wheel of death idea where everybody got to kind of vote with their common reward cards. So if you were cheering for the Heat, or it's not the Heat, if you're cheering for the Chiefs, you sent in a Heat Smith. If you were cheering for the Eagles, you would send in a Pellicor Mercenary. And in the last end of season before Soulbound reward cards, the Aftersound YT account got a Jared Scar. So everybody who was on the winning side or predicted correct would be added to a death wheel. And I think there were 4 total Heat Smiths or 4 total Chiefs and like 8 Eagles. So there's a very good chance anybody who was cheering for the Chiefs is going to get, or at least like a 25% chance of getting Jared Scar and all the reward cards associated with it. But let's say hi to the chat real quick, and then we'll jump into some topics here. So what's going on, Aaron Kennedy? Good to see you. Other Aaron says hello. Kevin, what's happening? Dennis, there we go. Aftersound in the chat, tuning in for this week's economy class with Foyet. Oh yeah, we'll have to get into that. And then I was talking in Math Chat earlier today about maybe we'll open with this just because it's a good thought. With what Aggie had said this morning. Good morning, Andrew Johnson. Oh, virus is here. Let's go. Yeah, Heat Smiths for the win. So here we'll run the wheel of death in a little bit, but it was virus, Yu-Gi-Oh, London 420, and Malden. Now, if you sent me a Heat Smith, and this has to be 4 days ago on Sunday, right? And for some reason I missed you, let me know, and we'll have to go find it on the blockchain because I did go through the Hive Explorer or the Peak Monsters Explorer for this, but I only found 4. So Decrop's Christmas finally dropped. Let's go. Good morning, Gathering the Magic. DJ, what's happening, man? Lots of news from Aggie this morning, movie packs. Yeah, all right. Well, let's jump into that. And then we'll catch up on chat. So did you see Aggie's post this morning?
No, I was gonna glance through it. I did see something come across.
Okay, so I'll read it. I don't know if I want to read it fully, but essentially he's talking about this movie pack, right? Or this movie studio collaboration.
I'm a little familiar, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's like hinted at it before, but I don't know. For some reason, he just like put it up today and asked Map Chat or the community. And let's see where here. Okay, so he has a question. He wants to do 2 million packs, something like $5 to $10 with a portion payable in vouchers. He can't share the movie studio yet, but it's apparently has a big cast and characters that would be incorporated into the Splinterlands as a crossover. Things to consider: we've stopped printing transferable reward cards. We're going to run out of Chaos Legion in 25 days. Land 1.5 is going to have several ways for you to stake more cards than those that exist and should be out in Q2. Rebellion likely won't hit until Q3. We target April to May to release this mini set. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but just based on your kind of analysis of where the ecosystem is at, how are you feeling about that?
I don't know. I think right now neutral. I would say. I think part of the big uplift that Splinterlands as a team has to produce is to find use case utility for the cards. Right now there are too many cards in the ecosystem, and then the other piece is to figure out like how to balance the new player intake, and then also the integration of potentially what to do with the Soulbound reward cards and what it could have the potential unintended consequences of these Soulbound reward cards. So I think those are the 3 pieces that they have to weigh, and then printing another increments of 2 million and leading to rebellion and things like that. So they're going to have to figure that out. And then Rift Watcher, how to sell Rift Watcher right now, the remaining cards.
Okay.
So those are, and then the SPS as a token. I don't think what they're doing to use like DEC to prop it up. I think there's just too many talented and smart whales, DEC whales out there that are balancing the Splinterlands team, and they're just buying it in other ecosystems. So I think the idea of having burn DEC as a primary mechanism from a flywheel perspective to kick off some of that, I think there's inherent flaws and concerns from a consideration perspective, from a mathematical perspective.
Sure. Yeah, so the thing is, we've talked about that before, right? The arbitrage that's happening on other chains, namely Ethereum and Binance. The thing is, how that arbitrage will eventually get eaten away, wouldn't it? Because if
not really,
well,
there are really smart people out there.
Well, there's smart people, but they can't print more DEC on these chains, can they?
No, but they can do things like they can withhold, they can delay, and so it's like it's a game of chicken, right? It's like how long can you delay something, and to the point where it kind of adversely affects, or you get the effect that you want from an economic return perspective, and then you just dump it and call it a day and walk away.
Well, okay, so we look at the Hive blockchain, right? So where the game is sitting on top of, as we'll just call it the primary place in which DEC stems from, right? And then it's bridged out to the other chains. But the way that I view it, and again, this game can be played for a long time. So I'm not saying that the whales.
Oh yeah, we're talking about years.
For a while.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm trying to make here is that, okay, let's say we burn a significant amount. Actually, we burn most of like the 6 whatever billion that we have sitting on Hive Engine right now. If we get DEC to peg on Hive Engine, because there is demand for it, we start printing or burning SPS. Let's say DEC at peg DEC's back at peg on Hive, but because whales are trying to take advantage of that, they are selling it down from peg on Binance and Ethereum and pushing it down to, let's say, 900 splintoshis. The point that I'm trying to make is that that's an easy like 10% arbitrage where somebody's going to take the move and transfer it in game because they know they can buy it for 900 splintoshis on Binance, transfer it in game, and then sell it for a 10% or 11% profit right off the bat. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like that game can last for a long time, but that arbitrage will eventually be eaten. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think the number we're looking at is so we have 3 billion SPS right now without any further the maximum piece. So when you look at something like a Ronin token, right, it's a 1 billion, and I think from an aspirational perspective, I'm thinking, and I'm not Matt, so if Yaba, you're thinking like Yaba Matt. Ideally you start off with 3 billion and you hope to end up with somewhere around 1.5 billion, right, from the burning mechanism, and I think this is the reason why he created the validator node the way it was, and to look at the whole thing with these mini packs and things like that. But I think that's the flaw, is to think that people would actually convert and sell their SPS to buy these at certain prices. So it keeps the price of SPS low relative to. So you look at something like a RON token that has gone up, I don't know, since November, like 400% or something like that. I can't. So it's when you look at other things, and when you look at competitive, so like Hive, I think the only gaming competitor is Avalanche from an L1 perspective, right? To be able to, you can look at Soul and others, but they're just functionally, even though they have a better product in terms of laying it out there, it's just not as feasible to build out.
What about Polygon? There's also a lot of chatter about Polygon.
Yeah, Polygon is. I view Polygon closer to the L1 piece of it, and Polygon does create a lot of the ecosystem, and they have a lot of the great partnerships. But I think Polygon is kind of like a top 10 coin, right? So they're from a return perspective, you wouldn't necessarily buy Polygon to hope to have that large asymmetric return, like with let's say other ones like the Hive or Splinterlands or the Roan token, things like that.
Okay, I'm getting lost here because we started talking about the pack sales, and then we transitioned to DEC. Now we're talking about other chains, which again I want to get into. I want to get into all of it, but just to tie back in the last couple of things that we talked about, because I know we want to talk about the Ronin token. So what is this parallel or lack of parallel that you're trying to draw between SPS and Ronin? Because from my understanding, shouldn't it be SPS is the equivalent of the AXS, the AXI token? Or is SPS trying to be both AXS and Ronin?
Yeah, so it's
if you were thinking from that perspective, right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't really. So AXS is the AXI governance token, and this is what SPS is. So what the RON token is, it's replacement for the validator. So this is kind of like, I think on the previous stream I was on, Matt looked at it as a hybrid. He tried to extract like the best of both worlds, essentially between the Gala node and looking at some of the other products, and he extracted what he believed is the best. And I think what he's trying to do from backing a DEC backing to a product and SPS and things like that, product backed is a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's hold on. Let's go back to where we started, because I know a lot of people have some feelings, very strong feelings about this new potential mini pack. And again, we've talked about it before, but let me just catch up on the chat here. So now one season at gold versus diamond numbers. I was at 3.322% versus your 5.621. Oh, interesting. All right, Kevin, thank you for sharing that. You did better on the legendaries for sure, which I would love to have. From 70 gold chests, 49 commons. All right, I will dig into these numbers a little bit later, but thank you for sharing. Merlin's Matrix is here. What is going on? Yeah, the Magic got some good stuff. Can you shout out Baffy for pumping GLX? No, I wanted to buy more GLX, and then he pumped it, so I'm not going to touch it over 3 cents. Someone's in a Conjure might have been saying, huh?
Is that your floor for GLX?
Yeah, I just don't like buying when it's super green. So, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily floor, but yeah, I guess it is. I guess, sure, yeah, mentally. Can it go lower? Obviously, but
it did go a little bit, yeah.
We'll get into GLX in a little bit. Someone sent a Conjurer, might have been saying the refs would decide the win. Yeah, I saw that too, Virus. I mean, I think many people did determine that the refs were a very, very major part of how that game played out.
You can't have a Super Bowl without the ref controversy.
You need the controversy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Level Up Life is saying, I don't like this idea. Also, Level Up Life, I saw that you said you were going to go to bed on Discord like 30 minutes ago. So thank you for staying up to discuss this, which is why I wanted to get to your comment, because I know
what idea is he talking about?
Oh, the mini set. That would add like 2 million packs. Yeah. So that's what everybody's kind of referring to here. Virus is saying he wishes that it was after Rebellion. Steve,
yeah, that would be ideal. I agree with what Virus is saying. I think the company is just looking for short-term revenue, and this is what they're creating. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So yep, Steve's online now.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like, okay, I can understand the company's trying to go after revenue. It's their job, right, to make as much money as possible. I don't want to demonize them for that. If they were just doing it in a way that was, what we'll call like obvious money grab situations, then sure, I could understand a lot of the disagreement there. I don't know what the movie studio is. I'm assuming if Aggie's hyping it up, it has to be something that all of us would at least recognize the name of, or at least the characters on the IP. So for me, again, this is more like long-term thinking about what this will do for something like Splinterlands. And the reason that I am for it, even if it could be, I don't want to say bad, but just difficult short-term, is because booking this partnership could mean that we book the Marvel partnership in 2 years, right? Like, it's just adding to the portfolio. So I just view it, and again, I even look at Waka, I'm like, Waka wasn't great, right? But it was a proof of concept that hopefully now we've done one, and the next person who comes along, whoever that might be, will look at that and be like, oh well, that person got a card, I want a card now too, right? So
And
it,
it
it
also
just makes,
demonstrated that the artists can make money, can monetize our
yeah,
ecosystem, our community.
yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's the number one result from in my eyes, is that
so artist perspective from Waka's perspective, right?
yeah, yeah, he and his team. It's possible that they were difficult to work with when they did things like that, but
Yeah.
I think it's a proof of concept. It demonstrated that the artist can monetize our community and ecosystem, and
Which,
that's the important part.
yeah, which is important, but also like I don't think it's a bad thing for artists wanting to monetize the ecosystem, but there also needs to be some give and take there too, right? Like I just feel like they should be bringing some kind of value from the audience that they have,
Yeah, and
and a
I
lot of
think
people feel salty because of that.
yeah, and I think the future of these metaverse and these cards and AR and VR type structure is that the artists will actually have skin in the game. So there's going to be an economic incentive both ways. It's kind of like the actors and actress, right? Prior to that, they just took money, and then they said, well, I want a percentage of my marketing. I see that my image, my brand is worth something, and
Yeah.
I think this is where the game is going, is heading. I think the ones that can monetize that, like what Meta is trying to do, it's a partnership piece with their their VR headsets and things like that. What they're trying to create with these characters, and I think that's where the true money is. They have an equity stake in the success of a product or a gaming studio.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what the economics or the financials were behind whatever the partnership was, and I'm sure it was very much tilted towards Waka's favor in this case
Yeah,
because it was the first time around. But I would hope that
correct.
stuff in the future will be with people who are more collaborative in the space rather than just trying to get a quick buck.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like NBA athletes and NFL players and things like that. Their whole goal is eventually to be owners of these franchises.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Would love to hear your thoughts on the new proposal of GLG. Thanks. Black Hole, actually, so I put a video out last night, but we can talk about it here. Foyer, do you have any thoughts? Or do you know what the GLG proposal was?
Yeah, I haven't really kept much with the GLG because I think I still don't know how the game will be played. I feel a little bit better with some of the releases where they kind of create how the teams, the dynamic of the gameplay will work, the potential. But I think there's so I've just been really just collecting and staking the token.
Well, for those who aren't familiar with it, there is a proposal on the GLG side, the first ever proposal, which you can use Peak Monsters or Splex to vote for, with your GLX stake. And it's essentially saying that they want to take another 20 million GLX and give it out as rewards for staking packs to incentivize more pack sales, and just kind of reward, early adopters between now, or not between now, but whenever I think it's like February 23rd, whenever that phase 2 pre-sale drop ends, and June 6th, which is the last final date that it seems like they think they'll get the game out. But if it happens before that, then all those extra rewards go back to the DAO. The problem with this for me, and I voted against it, is twofold, right? One, I don't like where it's coming from, because there's already like 100 million set aside for GLG, but they're not taking from that, they're taking from future partnerships. So that was like the big no for me. And then while I think it's great to reward early adopters, if they were to take it from like the GLG pile, like, that's fine. I want early adopters to be rewarded, but part of me is just like, everybody knew what they were signing up for, so it just feels a little awkward. I mean, I would vote for it if they switched where it was coming from, just because I do want to reward people who bought packs, and I didn't buy any packs, so I do want people to get rewarded before people start throwing me under the bus and being like, oh, you didn't buy any packs, so of course you don't care. But I don't like where it's coming from. I think it sets a bad precedent to like steal it from future partnerships. I think there should always be the incentive to get future partnerships.
Yeah, and Splinterlands always have a history of doing dabbling. It's kind of like paying out land early and things like that for the
Yeah.
landholders. So I think historically, what one of the big negative that Splinterlands runs into is that they reward early adapters way too much. I think that's the math behind the challenge, and they feel a lot of pressure to do it because
Yeah.
there aren't. It comes down to kind of Kevin Kelly's 1,000 fans and things like that. The concept of people who have committed and kind of ride or die situation, and I think
Yeah.
they're really trying to reward these folks to hold on to their large stake.
Yeah. I mean, objectively speaking, from a logical perspective, it makes the most sense, right? There's a bunch of people like myself, like even well, actually no, you came in earlier than me, but a bunch of people like myself who came in and probably spent like significant money on the game between August of 2021 and now. But the people who were there before and spent way more and are actual like whales in the game, that, and use the term, like that they're ride or die, right? So for if the Splinterlands team has to choose between making me happy or making them happy, I feel like they have every incentive to make OGs happy. Which, you know, feel about that however you want to feel. I'm just saying from an objective perspective, that is what you would do if you were in their shoes. So and I know it goes against the it's counterintuitive to the idea of like bringing in new players, but there's a balance that needs to be struck there. It's just I think the balance will always tilt towards the other side.
One of the irrevocable or irrefutable law of money is that it'll always reward its constituents.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be transcended to politics or religion or anything. But at the essence of it is that it'll always reward its constituents.
Yeah, good point. Icy Flow is here. What's going on? Stever, Aggie didn't drop much. He just asked how people felt about it and was trying to get a pulse in map chat. Do this partnership through Battle Pass rewards. No need for another set. I would love that. To me, that's what a Battle Pass can represent. Coming in partnership, something like that. I mean, that's literally what every other Web 2 game is doing. And I know, Foyet, you're not a big fan of Web 2, but I just feel like this would make more sense rather than introducing a new pack set.
Yeah, I think that the Battle Pass is a good concept. The only thing is for Web 2 games, in terms of percentage of revenue and exposure, it just represents a small. It's the Web 2 version of rewarding the OGs, right? It's rewarding your constituents, so loyalty, people who have spent time in the game or money in the game or a combination of that, and it's to not really damage the large spenders too much. And but the difference is, like in a Web 2 game, for instance, you play Pokemon Go, you spend $500,000, like Brendan Tan spends $500,000 in the game. Well, there's only so much that Niantic will give to him, and and the Axie's lead developer, who came from Niantic, is actually implementing some similar path in Axie and their homeland and some of the origins, some of the concepts. So I think at some point you have to throttle, but I think Splinterlands as a community is they have a large risk, and one of the risks that the Splinterlands ecosystem has is that these OGs are ride or die. That's it. It's at the end of the day, Splinterland, Matt, and Aggie has to take care of their job. One is to take care of these guys, because everything else can go bust and break, but these OGs will support their AWS server.
Yeah. Well, it's the harsh truth. What's going on, Vilson?
It's just a reality.
Vilson came here for the flywheel. You're probably a couple years early, my friend. Oh man, Papa Bear's back in the house. Let's do it. Let's have a nice bearish stream today. So Level Up Life is saying it could backfire if our community can't support the pack sales. I also feel that this sucks money out of other assets in our ecosystem and doesn't necessarily bring in new money.
Yeah,
I don't disagree at all. Level Up Life. I just think the long-term opportunity is better. But
I mean, look at TD, right? TD packs, and look at the GLG, and they're all going through. It's the volume isn't there, and you can't really have a dynamic random player base. And this is where people can knock bots and all they want, or these guys, and it's this is why I support it. I wish Aggie and Yamamat would step up earlier with the Nifty Arcade, because I think it's a great evolutionary partnership to be able to throw that into, and to whether you get there aren't that many new players, as you can see within the number of new accounts being created, but I think it's a great partnership, even with like the YGG SPL team and things like that. So you can actually come in on board through the Nifty process. You can earn a certain amount, and then you can actually go and join the YGG. And I think a group like YGG, you can actually make significantly more on a monthly basis if you're active.
Okay, hold on. Let's through a YGG scholarship, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, it's not a scholarship, so to speak, but what it is the way I would look at it, if I'm optimizing, if I have no money, I have zero money, and I would just go and just get an account with Nifty Arcade, and then I would play it for certain numbers, and I would get the rewards from that, and I would build it up to the point where I can take that and I can join like a guild like YGG SPL, and then from there, if you're active, you join, you get their YGG SPL, and then the YGG the Prime token, and then you can stake it, you can continue to earn rewards through that program. And I think that program pays the most out of any of the other ones I've seen within the Splinterlands ecosystem.
Interesting. Do you get any of the benefits from just staking?
Oh yeah, you can stake it and get various tokens. You can get Avagachi, you can get the League of Kingdoms. There's a few. I think they're expanding, and this kind of goes to show how little, even for Merit Circle and those guys who have the gaming DAO, how much further they have to grow just to kind of get there.
Got it. Okay. Man, we go down so many rabbit holes, because I was just looking at Level Up Life's cover. I'm like, how did we get talking about the YGG? Okay, so Hospital sucks money out of other assets in the ecosystem and doesn't necessarily bring in new money. Before I like come across as like before people accuse me of being a shill for the team, let me just say that like I actually I don't feel strongly one way or another when it comes to the mini set. I understand the risks. I understand the potential difficulties that could be there, but I also, from a business perspective, think that sure, not every partnership is good. Right, and there could definitely be bad partnerships, but I'm kind of of the same mind as like Aggie and Matt. It's just like if the opportunity is there, you got to find a way to make it happen. Right?
Are there any bad partnerships in our community?
Well, I mean, I'm sure people will look at like the Waka partnership and feel like that was a net negative, right? And again, you can agree or disagree with that, but
how many people talk about that? That's marketing.
I mean, people still bring it up all the time. I guess I'm the one bringing it up now, but
yeah, exactly. That's pure marketing. That's freebie that Chatter doesn't have to work for.
Well, it's not free marketing in the sense that Waka posted on his Instagram and Twitter.
No, I mean it's us. It's like, for instance, I even have conversations with friends or work colleagues or folks that they don't play Splinterlands, right? They don't. They're not even involved in this whole crypto thing yet. They, for water cooler conversations, they bring up Waka.
That's funny. Why would they bring up Waka?
Because it's a controversial topic, right? It's something that can be negatively frowned upon by our community, but yet the outside world doesn't see it that way. So it's like one of the things I wish Splinterlands would stop doing from a marketing perspective is to continue to appeal to Web2 players, because those are not the ones that will embrace. It takes too long for them to on-ramp to that. It's so much better to do what like Nifty is doing, or YGG SPL is doing with people from Philippines, the Malaysia, other parts of the world. They're so hungry for us, right? To play and yet we shunned them. Our community, like we don't even reach out. It's like the single spot in the world that wants to play our games, we shun them.
I actually agree with you 100%. Not on the shunning part. We can dig into that, but I agree with you on the fact that we
Well, I mean,
shouldn't.
Level Life is from the Philippines, right? He brought in like 50 players to the Nifty Arcade
Mhm.
ecosystem. There are literally thousands of players in the Philippines that would,
Yeah, true.
Furious Chicken could bring in. There's a bunch of people who are really great ambassador, and these are what like Switzerland's chatters their marketing budget. Weirdbeard, they should be working with these guys to grow their community, to work with them to develop and say, okay, how can we bring in another 100 players to Level Up Life? What can we do to incentivize and to collaborate and reward? It's not that Level Life expects it or anything, but it's just good ecumenical things to do for gaming, for someone that brings in. It's a reward system.
No, I mean, I agree with that, and I definitely would want to see more of it. I also agree with what you said initially, where I just don't see the benefit of chasing Web2 players. Like, there's too many switches to flip for them, right? They don't have the crypto mindset. They don't understand NFTs. Like, there's too many barriers, we'll call it. Whereas, like, if you find people who are already in the space trying to find legitimate projects and then create easier opportunities for them to be onboarded, such as Nifty Arcade, such as the players in the Philippines, right? That's like a good match. Yeah, I mean, we should be creating more opportunities like that.
Yeah, and like
okay,
go ahead.
I was going to say this a couple minutes earlier, but I feel like we've dove even deeper into it, which is great.
Yeah.
So part of me always wonders why the economics are not in a place where Nifty is succeeding. And the reason that immediately comes to my mind, and I'd love to get your thought on this, is rental value. Rental value is so low, and you could probably say that's due to maybe too many cards in the ecosystem, right? Or too much Chaos Legion, where it's easier or not easier, but it's more cost effective to go rent a deck and play with it rather than doing something through Nifty Arcade.
It's a combination, right? One, it's a percentage reward system. I think Diamond provides probably the optimal if you're a renter. Your goal is you pray and you hope to get a Diamond deck, right? Because the payout, no matter how little the percentage you get, I think the overall return and the gameplay piece and the availability of the Diamond deck compared to like a champion level deck, that's probably the optimal piece that Nifty's looking for. And I think the other piece is the price of SPS. So when you look at what we as a player get, so I play, let's say, rank battle, I play some tournaments, I play some brawls, you have some land, you have all these things that you're stacking, and you add up the sum of your return on a daily basis as you collect these, right? You collect them, you stake them, or you sell them, but your daily return, when you look at the sum of it, it's Nifty needs to go further to really reward these players, to incentivize, but they can't because of the price of SPS. So they have to make, like, as an investor, right? So Nifty, how does Nifty get their money? They get to a certain set, the starter dollar amount, and they have, I think 200, and they have less than 300 available decks. And then I think maybe the Splinterlands team may add up somewhere between 500 and 700 additional deck potentially. So when you look at it, that meant that Nifty has purchased in aggregate under 500,000 packs, Chaos Legion packs, and we're not even talking about competitive, because without the let's say without the Rift Watcher, certain Rift Watcher cards like Aggro Longdale and things like, you can't really be that dominant of a player. So what you're looking at is at the somewhere between the 45 to 62% win rate ratio, right, to create a deck that can kind of win that range. And then with the price of SPS being so down, the return, it's not a lot of incentive. So this is why you have to create an incentive for people to hold the SPS, to stake the SPS. You have to create where SPS is scarce, right? You can encourage burning of the SPS to get DEC, but that's that's years from now potentially. You'll potentially get DEC even to low 90% of peg, right? But I don't know if it'll stay at peg long enough for any duration, and we can attribute that to whatever pieces of that, but that, and I think the other, this Stever82, what he's saying would, like, collectors collect, and a lot of players. So this is where I think the second set is the walking keys model piece. So we have the Nifty Arcade, the YGG SPL combo model, and then the second piece is what Stever82 is saying. The collector's piece is that walking keys is a perfect prime example of what is beautiful about our game, right? Splinterlands, and beautiful about our ecosystem is that we have collectors, and Splinterlands should embrace this. And these are the very top 2 community that they should be marketing to, not the Web 2, and not all. There's so many Web 2 people that are collectors that will easily jump on and collect, and they just like to accumulate. They just like to see it, and they like to play with it. They're not necessarily thinking. People like Darkest Night, right? Darkest Night is accumulator, right? Think of how many cards he sold, right? Since this whole
I think
experience.
it's 2.
Yes, 2.
He called me when he sold his second card, and he was like, "I can't believe I sold my second card ever."
But think of it like, what are the 2 things like Walking Keys and Darkest Night talk about the most, right? They talk about creating funds for these cards. They talk about they want like a gold locks, right? Walking Key talks about like more Roonies, right? And the specific Roonies. He's really passionate around these, and these are the communities that I think Splinterlands should really spend the money and reward. And then the third piece are people like Luthia and Darkest Night, Virus. They play for the love of the game, right? And these are like like Junie, right? He sees things from a different perspective, and these are the various segments. If I were to break it from a marketing perspective,
no, I mean, there's so many places that they could focus. I mean, I'm glad that they're not just like trying to spray Brave ads everywhere. I know that that's been effective, but it's just not. To me, putting money towards something like Nifty, working with other big guilds, like what fascinates me about the Nifty situation, right, is because they came in to the space as a guild, right? Similar to like your YGG, but I know that they still have the guild stuff going on, or at least I think they do, but it seems like they made this very hard pivot towards the picks and shovels kind of approach, right, where it's just like, well, instead of like us focusing on building a guild, let's create guild onboarding tools, right, or like mass onboarding tools, which I think is brilliant. I love what they've done, and that's why I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what needs to happen within the economy other than just SPS going up, because SPS going up solves a lot, right? It doesn't solve a lot. It masks a lot of problems, and it brings a lot of people in for whatever reason, right? So SPS going up will do that, and that will happen in a bear market rally or a macro bull, but we don't want it to just do it at that way. Like, I would love for everything to be tanking and the tokenomics to be so pristine within Splinterlands that we can actually get SPS to move up on its own. So then reeling that back to what Nifty's doing, and why I was asking about, like, as a lender or as a asset holder, do I make more from botting my account? Do I make more from lending my account? Or sorry, do I make more from botting my account? Do I make more from renting my cards out? Or do I make more from lending my account through Nifty? And how does the economy need to be designed? What are the things that need to be done in order to make it so that lending my deck out through Nifty is actually an appealing and competitive option? Or maybe we never get there, and this is just something that Splinterlands, the company, needs to eat as a marketing tactic.
I always fundamentally believe that the Splinterlands team and the DAO both have a fiduciary responsibility to bring in new users and to create these decks, lending it through Nifty Arcade, or to create people that can join guilds like YGG, SPL, and others, right? So I think one of the fundamental reasons, and this is just my opinion only, why the Nifty Arcade Guild, I tried to actually join them. I talked to them a little bit. I was part of their Discord briefly, but the community isn't there from that perspective, at least from my 2 cents.
Okay.
And also the other piece is that a lot of guilds try to push charging DEC. They have to pay a certain dollar amount. I was with other guilds and things like that too, and they were just aggressively pushing how many DEC. It's just not a sustainable model where you put so much on the members without getting a return, without tokenizing the actual guild, without creating a value, a way to give back to its member base. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're just dumping so much value into the guild, and they can just kick you out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, you're right. I haven't actually dug into the details, but I've seen some of Bulldog's videos where he's like trying to set up this scholar guild, which to me is actually an interesting approach from. Well, obviously he's a content creator, so he gets a kind of like secondary benefit there. But the idea of like creating your own kind of sub community from scratch, where you're putting the assets out. I don't know if he's requiring people to pay, any kind of fee outside of just delegating, a certain amount of SPS per, whatever the split ends up being. But, my thought process is like, okay, well, what would get me to do something like that versus renting my cards out or botting my account, right? Again, I know I'm just kind of stuck on this, but
Steve or 82 answered it.
Yeah.
He basically said Nifty is great for the renters, bad for their lenders.
Bad for lenders.
And it comes down to the price of SPS, right? And to his point, like
But
lithium it makes less.
I just feel like it should be price agnostic. Don't you think?
No way. No way. This is what makes like Axie scholars work, right? This is like a completely different model because their expectation and what they set, and why the Axie Scholar program continues to grow, is that Splinterlands as a gaming company, like they don't focus.
Can I ask one question real quick?
Yeah.
Axie doesn't offer a rental market the way Splinterlands does.
No rental.
So the only way that you can get is either buying the assets full price or getting it through the delegation. Okay, just
correct.
Just
yep.
Want to make sure for people who aren't familiar with Axie.
Yep. Yeah, and I think this is like one of the flexible model that Splinterlands provides, is that Splinterlands offers so many pieces of what a gaming and a community should be, or what a business model should encompass. I think from a business model, like if you were to build a business, and the beauty of what Splinterlands and what I get what Yaba and Aggie's trying to do with land and things like that, is that you can actually one day they can simplify and flatten linear the whole business ownership piece, the program. They can actually just a toolkit. You can come in, you have a certain amount of money, you have $100,000, and you plop it in there, and it can be automated into where you create a business model for Splinterlands. Splinterlands is the business model. So there will be, there will be, if I'm looking at it from like an economic perspective, from where Aggie's and Yaba's looking at it, their goal is to figure out how to augment and create that next evolutionary curve for business model. And so I think State of Survival was talking about like why Gala has more user base and things like that. Splinterlands, like historically, because of the pieces for whatever, relied on a lot of bot creation, just because of the way they were extracting from the ecosystem, and then how do you put a stop to that process, right? Versus Gala had the benefit, and along with Immutable and things like that, outside of Gods Unchained and things, they have better Web 2 games, and they're able to add. When you look at like all of these other pieces, they have Web 2 games better, being like users are more familiar with it, right? You have like spider tanks, you have games that people are more familiar and can easily transition. Now, is it as good as Web 2? No, but at least they can just play, and they're sustainable. But I think from a user base, Splinterlands isn't doing too badly compared to others. They're just not doing it as great, but
Yeah. Okay. That is okay. Hold on. Let's catch up on the chat, because I know we're referencing a lot of stuff down there. Okay, so it's nice to see user base to support GLX. But what exactly is the MLS putting into this? It seems like yeah. I mean, that's just how it's going to be with any major sports league. They have the IP. Everybody wants the IP, so they just got to share it, and then you got to do all the work. So I'm not surprised. Now, both parties should have spin in the game. I think it depends on the movie studio. I would love T2. I would love T2 also. Batman, Spawn, Marvel. Excuse me, guys. Batman has no superpowers. All right. Plus, in the future, probably get land delegations from. Yeah. Great reference. The point. This IP is fun. I don't submit wax NFTs. Collectors collect. Yep. Okay, so that's what you're referencing. I'd probably buy some licensed cards just on cosmetics alone. Don't tell my girlfriend though. Nope. Lips are sealed. Tell me what her YouTube username is. I'll block her. I'm just kidding. Why does Gala and other games in the space have so much user base? We say it's too difficult. It's because the game is on Hive. I genuinely believe because the game is on Hive. Nobody cares about Hive. People are willing to eat gas fees or use something like Solana or Avalanche, but yeah. Nifty is great for the renters, bad for the lenders. Yep. Andrew agrees with that. I tried Nifty for a few seasons with various decks, and the return is dismal for lenders. I ended up pulling my decks and moving them elsewhere. It's just easier. I mean, you just get more from botting even at this point, even if you can't rent them out.
Yeah, so this is why the team and the DAO has the fiduciary responsibility to eat it, because there's a low likelihood that players like you and I or a lot, we would say, okay, maybe we'll give 1 or 2 decks, right, to Nifty. Yeah. But then it's like, we're just doing it out of ecumenical reasons. We're not doing it out of financial reasons. So I think when you want to incentivize someone from a financial perspective, it's very difficult, the Nifty model, to monetize it. I think this is why the team and the DAO, they have to eat it. And I struggle even with the whole gene pool proposal with the 300,000 Chaos Legion packs that's going to be held. But then, you have 2 million that's coming in, that's incoming too. And they're
2 million from the movies thing.
Yeah, and they're constantly adding cards to the ecosystem, and that hurts. At some point, like you're gonna have to decide because despite whatever it is that the Splinterlands team talks about land, despite how optimistic Aggie is right now and all the other pieces, the reality is it'll be years before it'll start. Think of like if you were a landowner, if you own like 1,000 plots, right? How long would it take you to get that to max L5 cards into there, and then the tokens, the number of runes, and all the pieces? And then when you're looking at it from Yaba's from an econometrics perspective, landowners, and depending on where you get it, at what point you procure your land, you really benefited way beyond God's green earth, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like the reward that you've gotten, and
airdrop,
Splinterland,
early,
so Yaba has to take some back and land historically, even in the real world, you're taxed beyond anything, and you have to pass it on to the users or renters, right? The community. So whatever the product or byproduct that land produces, from a business model perspective, the landowners have to tax. They get taxed, and then they'll have to pass it. And these taxes, mind you, I'm not saying that the Splinterlands team makes money or anything like that. It's just burning, but it's an effective way to kind of manage or throttle people a little bit, and to kind of extend the land metaverse curve perspective. Sure. Otherwise, you wouldn't, if you went to someone and say, hey, would you invest 7 years in order to be profitable? Now, on a regular land, on a real life, people do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But we have CapEx, we have ways to operationalize the tax structure, and we have the Donald Trump real estate model of zero tax, right? You have a lot of things that you can do, and Yama has to create a similar model, a comparative model within the Splinterlands, to extend it.
If you're gonna treat it like real estate, like real actual real estate, physical real estate, then if you want people to treat it like physical real estate, then you need to create the infrastructure around it, which will help them to do so. All right, so State of Survival saying the problem with collecting within SPL is that there's no hardware wallet or any wallet that matter. Yeah, no, I agree. There should be some kind of way to play from like a hardware wallet. Okay, this is something that I wanted to get into because I actually think this is a huge point. So, Virus, thank you for bringing it up. Going back to Bulldog's Scholar Guild, he has a sponsor that is promoting that Scholar Guild. Now,
Yes,
shout out
and
to
he has a
Bulldog.
name. It's a naming right.
Yep.
Scholarship type structure. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Shout out to Bulldog because what is he doing? He is taking outside capital. He is doing marketing for the game, for the company in a sense, and taking that capital, putting it into the game, right? And creating that space for newer players to come in. This is something that I guess, I mean, any content creator can and should do, but also the company should be finding ways to exploit this as well, right? Like with whatever kind of decks that they create, they should set up something with Nifty or or create guilds that are fine. They come from like Splinterland's backing, but if Splinterlands can come in and be like, whoever this movie studio is, right, before they start anything, this movie studio is going to create a guild and it's going to have all of the Nifty scholars join it, whatever, you know what I mean, like, or it's a graduation guild where people who finish the Nifty the thing for a month or 2 months, whatever it is, now there's an opportunity for them to join this guild. I don't know. To me, it's just like Bulldog is doing it right in that sense, and that should be extrapolated, especially with the team's relationships and how they should focus on that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Bulldog is a great ambassador for the game, and he's done a lot for the game. I think so. If there's like one single person or group or entity that can actually help the Splinterlands gaming community the most, it's actually Jarvie. Jarvie has the PKM token, and right now the utility of the PKM, and I don't want to really like give it to him, but at the end of the day, there's actually a model that he can create to solve a lot of these problems, because he owns the bidding system, he owns the rental piece.
Mm-hmm.
He owns already a token, so he can actually drive utility to that token, and that token will be actually worth more than the Splinterlands token if he does it right. And I don't want to give it to him, but the idea, but there, and it's actually not my idea. It's actually a friend of mine who actually, again, is not. He's an economist, right? He's 2-3 PhDs from the Harvard School.
What do you mean you want to give him the idea?
I mean, I think he can do it. He just has to think about it.
Okay.
I think Jarvie is smart enough that I think he can do it. But he can actually. It's the same way we talked about last time, like Splinter Forge. They should actually just sell it to Splinterlands and integrate it as an easier economic return, and then turn around and just buy SBS, right? And just hold on to it. It'll their staking and the whole return that is a lot better than their efforts. And Jarvie can actually drive an economic model to his PK token that would be extremely valuable.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to Jarvie?
No, he was on the show. I mean, I was just throwing out. It's okay. It's just, but yeah, I mean, it's he'll figure it out. He just has to think about the whole pieces. But I was I was hanging out with someone, and they just happen to be smarter than I am when it comes to a lot
when
of
it comes to
that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to connect you guys if you want to give him that idea privately.
I don't know. I to see what he comes up. He's got a lot on his plate, and he's doing a lot of things. I don't know what his interests are.
Yeah, no, he had reached out to me. I need to get back to him. So sorry, Jarvie. I will catch up on Discord DMs today.
Yeah, but he can solve a lot of things for Nifty and Gene Pool. I think he mentioned he invested like over $400,000 into this game and created. So Gene Pool can actually create a mini version of this too. Of what Jarvie can do for Splex and things like that. But Jarvie's in a lot of better position because he holds a lot of the Hive, and he holds a lot of high power, and he can do a lot. He can do a lot that from a frictionless perspective, like you would never notice it. It's seamless. It's like what his model is for the rental. He just basically Peak Monster, Jarvie just took an easier path from a rental perspective and created these quartiles of rental, where you are, what percentile and things like that. But without putting in the same effort, let's say, like Splex, for instance, for renting.
Yeah. Okay, well, now you have me thinking about this, so we'll I guess say that for later.
The beauty of it is he can actually extend this model to a few other games that's outside. Then it's there's a lot of things like you can do with Hive, because Hive is unique, right? So Hive has the resource token, and as we know, in like for human beings, the most scarce resource isn't necessarily our time, it's energy, right? It's optimal energy. Is to what percentage of our 24 hours a day would we create the highest optimal energy perspective, and how do we get that optimal energy piece. And so that is the scarcest resource from a human perspective, and so he can actually do some of these things that would from a
to take a bearish left turn here. The conversation that I had with you and Vet V a couple weeks ago, one thing that my eyes were open to, we'll call it that, was the idea that Hive is actually very difficult to hold resource credits, and Hive power is such a stumbling block that most people, especially those who like whales, right, who financials are, small gas fees aren't an issue for, they don't want to deal with that, right? And so this it flipped everything for me, because it made me realize, like, oh, okay, so whales are never coming to Hive, because it's just too, like, they want the ease of use. Their time is more important, the energy than the money that they have. So there is, like, all the people who get super excited and talk about, like, oh, I can't wait until Hive is like a top L1 or a top 100 coin. That made me realize, like, no, that's never going to happen to Hive. Hive is always going to stay in the background, and if anything, Hive will never pull Splinterlands up. Splinterlands will pull Hive up. So I'm actually very bearish on Hive now as a platform.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That the single thing that Hive can do is around SPT. Basically, they're that token where you do blogging and you do a lot of threads and a lot. I think this is where Hive can really accentuate their creativity and the uniqueness of their environment, because it doesn't cost anything to be a creator in that aspect of it. And there needs to be people. I mean, like, for instance, I think Gank bought like a large sum of SPT for his own use. And then the Splinterlands team has a bunch of them, and then you have like Jarvie. He gives them away. It's like candy to him, right? He has so many of them.
Gives what away?
The SPT. As long as you mention something. Yeah, and there's a lot of things that. So I think this is where Hive, as a curator, blogging mechanism, can really thrive. I mean, like Leo Finance has tried this, and they're going through that piece where they're dabbling with it to try to use some of the threading, the blogging to try to get it, and then just to kick it between Twitter and some of the other pieces. And then linking it. So I think it's just a matter of like taking a bunch of products that Hive and meshing it and creating an area where you have an absolute advantage over. I think the team and Hive needs to look at that, where they have an absolute advantage in the market.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree. I'm not trying to like put Hive down the toilet. It's just when I think about, I mean, you brought it up well, right? Like, they need to play to their strategic advantages, which is kind of like that whole social model. I don't necessarily see that happening on other chains, or at least not in the same way that it's built out on Hive.
It's Pareto's 80-20 rule.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's like Splinterlands marketing too. Otherwise, it's like it's like Gala, right? They look at their 80-20 principle, core principle, and then the easy is just to buy it. It's just like
Yeah.
Microsoft. How do you get into and extend to, from the world's second largest database company? Well, you just buy chat AI, right? Yeah, yeah. It's like, how do you get into being the from the third largest gaming company in the world, right? Microsoft. How do you get there to potentially take on the likes of Tencent and others? You just buy into it. Yeah, it costs you $100 billion, but yeah, you buy into it. Apple is sitting in the same thing with the largest cash on earth, right, of any company, and they're just sitting there and just saying, okay, how do we deploy it now? Steve Jobs has a historical record of not buying large sum of money and just always accumulating. But he came from a different era versus
Sure.
Tim Cook looks at it differently, and the future of Apple's executive leadership looks at it differently. But at some point, it's like Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, right? At some point, they're going to look at it and say, largest deployment. It takes an outsider. It wasn't Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett that made the decision to acquire a large piece of Apple. It took someone that viewed the future from a different perspective. And that's what's going to take, to grow Splinterlands, is to look at it and say 80-20, where can we deploy the largest amount to get the highest return?
You're saying we need some outside perspective to come in?
Potentially. I think
that.
businesses always can, it's just how you really take someone's opinion, right? And
Sure.
then there's always, the emotional perspective that's tied to your little baby, and no one likes to be told something negative.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the largest things that prevents businesses from having these large asymmetric return, or to take on large market segmentation, or to get large investors to get into it, is just to accept what you are in your space, and to say that I'm going to be one of the best individuals in my space, and just focus on that.
Well, where is okay, let's actually make this practical then, because I fully agree with what you're saying, right? A lot of times people will get too emotionally attached to what their original idea was without actually taking a look at what's been successful and making the proper pivot, or whatever reallocation of resources. So if you're looking at Splinterlands, where is that 80% that they should be focusing on?
I think the crypto users and
Okay.
some of the kind
Sorry,
of
that was too broad of a question.
yeah, it's some
But
of
from a
the
marketing,
pieces,
yeah.
but I think what they have to deliver is land, right? They have,
Mhm.
and I don't know what percentage of their resources, and I know you have to keep the lights on, you have to maintain a certain number of resources, and this is where potentially you could use an outside investor money for, is to allocate. I think it's just dumping as much of your intellectual capital resources, the best of your team has to go into land. They have to work on land. It's like you wake up, you think about land. You go to sleep, you think about land. You need a team that just all they think about is land, because without land adding all these cards, and you're also facing very, very large, like what you'll notice in the Splinterlands community, there are really smart people. I think on average, Splinterlands as a community, they're really smart, like how they manage and monetize their money, and how they allocate their resources within the ecosystem. So Matt's going to look at it, and he's not going to think like, oh yeah, everyone's going to get max cards, right? Everyone's going to get whatever. I don't know. He has 5 max cards on land, whatever it is, or if summoners even involved. I don't know how he's going to kind of create that model, but the economic incentive. But really, it's like the average player isn't gonna. It's just like your deck, right? It's like, sure. Matt hasn't yet convinced me to play at Diamond. Yeah, I have 3 or 4 days before the season end. I'm at Diamond. I'm at whatever, 3,100, 3,200, whatever.
Stretch up.
Yeah, but I just hang around. I hover there, right? And then it's like when he looks at like how I'm using my cards and things like that, yeah, I take losses, but they're intentionally schemed losses, because at the end of the day, it's just better economic return. So he has to either create a model that can kind of inch me over and compare, and motivate me to spend the additional $1,200 to make my deck at that diamond level, or he's just going to look at it. And so I think it's just a matter of what he's trying to drive, like what incentive is he trying to drive. And I think the Soulbound piece will have years and years of unintended consequences that will far surpass what they've done for DEC from a pegging perspective on the airdrop.
Can we dig into that? Because
Yeah.
early on, it felt like you were supportive of the Soulbound reward card move.
Yes.
Even though it was a little bit more Web 2. So what are some of these unintended consequences that you're worried about?
So I think one of the ways, and I don't know if he's going to have a 1 year, 18 months, 12 months, 24 months cycle into the airdrop, because we have like 43 of them. And what happens is, so if currently you have like a silver deck, let's say you have a silver 2, silver 1 deck, and you'll accumulate, let's say it takes you 3-4 months to create a substantial level of deck. So what happens is you create another account, you send all your non-Soulbound cards away, and now you're playing with the Soulbound because you have summoners. Yeah, you take your losses, right, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Your win rate's not going to be there, but you'll accumulate enough. You'll continue to accumulate the SPS. So the name of the game is to really get as many SPS, as many merits, as many things as possible. And then what you're going to do is create to a certain level, and then you just put up your account for sale. So at the end of the cycle, where Matt drops and say the end of the Soulbound piece, you no longer sell the actual asset. You sell now the account. The account becomes a saleable product. It's a commodity. It's a Web 2 process, right?
Rather than paying the fees to unlock.
Why would you do that? You just the account. You sell the account. The account has much higher market value than the actual cards. You would never like pay DEC into staking. You just sell your account.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of what you wouldn't be able to unlock, which I guess would be gladiator cards if you're playing using merits, right?
Same way. As soon as someone gets to max gold level, they're putting on sale. They sell everything, and
okay. Well, selling accounts, it's not like it's something new, even within Splinterlands. I mean, this was happening before.
Yeah.
So
you get into a lot of the scamming piece too, and then you get into a lot, and for a game to be successful, that's what really caused like Web 2 to be a drama scenario, is that you get into a lot of scamming. And this is why the 5% fee that Splinterlands creates, and it's very reasonable for you to avoid scams. And I think this is something that Matt has to figure out. So now, not only does Matt have to create an entire card market, non-card market, he actually has to now create an account market.
Yeah. There is a way that they could. There is a way that they could remove a lot of the risk factors for selling of accounts. And I mean, we won't get into it here, but point being is that, like, if that did become an issue, I don't know what kind of infrastructure work that they would need to do, but I feel like they could address that as something, right? But do you have other concerns?
I mean, so that would be one, and then the other is the constant extraction of SPS. They're going to just take it on a weekly basis or whatever, and they're just going to sell it. And at the silver level, it's not a large amount, but if you have a lot and you're using, one of these 3-4 rental or botting company, or you have your own botting farm of 1,000 or more accounts, you can get a decent amount with very little effort. And this is where, like, so Splinterlands, we'll get into, and the lower the value the SPS kind of maintains, the more this distraction will take place, because people are not going to see that holding on will make it more worth more.
Well, I mean, there'll be constant sell pressure too, which will be keeping it low. So isn't that just like a death spiral?
Yeah, yes, and it keeps it. So for people who truly believe in the token itself and the value that the token has, and what will curb this a little bit too is the staking SPS. So you have guild staking, player staking. It's like what Axie had to do with SLP, right? SLP just nosedive as soon as a lot of people were just dumping it and they realized it, and then as soon as the Axie lead developer said, "Oh, sorry guys, what we algorithmically designed isn't happening. There are some flaws into that, and SPS will continue to be minted at an ungodly rate. So so it took
You mean
Axie.
SLP?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, SLP.
Okay.
It took Axie, over 2 years to figure out how to create this burning mechanism to get it down. And this is kind of like some of the unintended consequences, is that they're going to have to get ahead of the curve on this, and SPS staking is one of them, creating some use cases for the validator universe to try to get the SPS chain live and going, so that people are not just going to own a validator and do nothing and just get continued voucher in SPS daily.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Let's catch up with some of the chat here, because there's some interesting discussion going on. All right. So issue now, Soulbound reward cards. All you get as a lending is percentage of that. You don't get the Soulbound reward cards. Yep. Doesn't make much sense to do it. Botting is allowed. Yep. So Aaron's saying Aggie is getting the hype in map chat over land. I know, I can see that there's a lot of stuff happening in map chat, but I'm missing it right now. Papa Bear, bring me back off the ledge. I mean, have you heard us talking about Hive? Have you heard us talk about the death spiral of SPS? Come on now. I'm doing everything I can to make you guys as bearish as possible.
Well, he's not driving on a Tesla,
bonding,
right?
Let's even get into what virus and everybody are talking about below, because I think that's important. So, will crypto winter get worse? I'm wondering if people will be cashing in their crypto to pay off debts in the real world. Maybe. Maybe. I have no idea. But again, this is why it's Bitcoin maxi for me. Or, I mean, even Ethereum too, right? Like, it's just both of those are the most decentralized things that I probably wouldn't want to let go of. But if you had to, then you had to. SPL seems to diversify too much into crypto. I think this should.
Then why is Ethereum and Bitcoin up if he's feeling like the world is crashing?
Why am I thinking that Ethereum and Bitcoin would be up?
Yeah, and it's been up. I mean, Bitcoin had
Well, oh no, he's asking a hypothetical. He's saying, will it crash? So if the general market takes a further nosedive from where it is now, will crypto follow that, just because people will sell their most risky assets to help pay off whatever debts they have in the real world? And I don't think that's out of the question, but yeah. So account sales for the win. What's up, Alex? I don't fully agree. Selling an account is a lot of work. I don't see that many people doing that. They could make it easy. Wouldn't that push unlock cards value up? Nah, it could actually.
Potentially. But the problem is we have too many cards.
Yeah. I mean,
no place to use it, like land.
I said this a couple of weeks ago, but I actually believe that this is probably one of the most bearish things that I could say about the state of affairs with Splinterlands, right? And again, I'm just telling you how I feel. So this is not just me trying to throw shade for any reason. The fact that Soulbound reward cards have come out now, and they are powerful, and I can just play to earn them with the deck that I have, similar to you, Foyet. I have zero incentive now to max out my deck, right? Knowing that there will always be more and more cards in the future. And as long as my deck, even with like the older, even if it moves to wild, as long as I can be competitive in gold, again, not even the best, but just competitive in gold, means that I could essentially earn forever, right? And just play the game.
You can get 80 gold chests a season.
So, something like that, right? So will the cards become less effective over time? Maybe, but I go into wild and I still get smacked by some of the older cards, and I think Chaos Legion is still a powerful set, right? So as long as I'm maxed for gold, the fact that I was disincentivized by seeing how good some of these Soulbound reward cards are, and knowing that once these Soulbound reward cards are out of print, there will be more Soulbound reward cards that I'll be able to earn, right? So it's just it's like the cycle. It's just like, do I ever have to buy any more cards in the game to play, not to be good, but just to play? And the truth is, I don't. And that's kind of what people are alluding to here. later on in the chat with these like Soulbound decks, right? So hold on, let me see.
But you,
I'd be
you know
more
what?
so yeah.
Go
Ours is
ahead.
saying I think it'd be more likely for people to bot with full Soulbound decks. Now, again, so here's the strategy, and the question that I ask myself is why am I not doing this? And it's usually because I'm too lazy. But the point is, why wouldn't I go out and either buy or rent a deck right now, play an account that's in gold, right? And then just get that account for maybe 1 or 2 seasons for a month, and build up the Soulbound reward cards there. Then I could essentially bot that thing indefinitely. And sure, will the win rate be great? Probably not. But guess
But
what?
do you care?
No, I don't
You're
care.
because you're profitable.
Well, because it's endlessly profitable.
Yeah, so you
Right?
don't care.
I run it forever. So
Yeah.
again, and I'm not the only one doing
So
that. And
Archmage or Xbot or Splinter
yeah,
Mage can just keep collecting for you.
essentially these it's just going to be all of these Soulbound bot decks that are playing against each other in the lower tiers.
Yep.
So
And then when you
it's
have
a
these,
one-time cost if you think about it.
yeah, and the beauty is people always go back to the bot conversation, right? When you have bot against bot, and when you have Soulbound deck against Soulbound deck, the win rate will even out. Eventually, there's going to be enough of them, and every 3 to 4 months, someone with their silver or gold deck will just basically send away all their other decks, and they'll be left with the Soulbound. And now you got 2 decks, right? You go from 1 to 2, and it multiplies.
Yeah.
And then the next 3 to 4 months or 5 months max or something like that. Now you have, instead of 2, you have 4 decks, right? And then another 3 to 5 months, instead of 4, you have 8 decks, right? And then you have 16. So you see how these can multiply and can endlessly produce. And the beauty is you'll get less. Yes, there are fewer accounts playing, but you'll optimize it to the point where as long as you're profitable, you'll continue.
Yeah, actually, Aaron, I don't know why you didn't just comment this here, but Aaron sent me a message, which I think is actually a great idea. He's saying Soulbound cards need to act like ghost cards and not reward, or only fractionally reward. I think when they're
about that.
Well, so here's the thing. Actually, I like this idea a lot, because when they're in print, that's fine. You give them the full rewards. But as soon as they're out of print, the only way that that kind of sucks. As soon as they're out of print, then you almost force everyone to kind of buy them, right? By forcing them to unlock to earn,
or stake your DEC or voucher or whatever mechanism.
DEC.
Yeah. But then it's like
I don't know how I feel about that.
So it's really going back to the player community to say, okay, here's another hurdle you have to overcome to monetize.
Here's another exploit that you have to pay for in order to close the loop. So we were talking about unintended consequences, right?
Yes, and so Weirdbeard states it's tackled by game design. Making
what's up, Weirdbeard?
Changes in games can prevent. True to some extent, but we're dealing. This is my fundamental belief: is that the Splinterlands community, as a general community consensus, is smarter than the average community out there for Web3.
You're gonna make us blush. Well, why is that though? Is it because we have governance set up?
Well, no, I think it's the mechanism, like the way. So you have to think of people who want to monetize. So Hive, in terms of Hive engine,
Sure.
The attraction for Hive, right? So you need a certain level of interest, right? To get on Hive, right? The desire to get on Hive. First of all, you have to be frugal. You don't want to squander your money, and you ultimately fundamentally believe that it's a good risk from a risk diversity perspective. You're diversifying from like a Ronin fee structure. So this is kind of like the fee structure that Chuni talks about on one of the People's Guilds, right?
I'm listening to that one now.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's like a fee structure, right? So you're looking at a fee. So everything in the world of economics, it comes down to fee, and this is what makes a flywheel feasible, is that it's fee based, right? But the question is, what is the fee? What is the structure? What is the mechanism of the fee, right? So Hive, it's staking these Hive power, right? You put a bunch of them, and then you stake them. You hold them forever for perpetuity, because your rental account will need them. You can only do so much with the bare $10 investment that you make from an ECR perspective, right?
Yeah.
So you get into that model, and then so Hive has stuck you with a you're permanently indelibly linked because you don't want to walk away. So now the only thing you can do is continue to add to that high power. Your high power will only go up, right? You can be delegated high power and things like that. And this is where Jarvie at Peak Monster can do enormous value, and this is why his token is so valuable if he makes certain changes to it. So the piece is at the end of the day, the type of people that are attracted to Hive are higher intellectual capital, people who are frugal with their money and who wants to kind of manage it. And then the game itself encourages this, right? The OGs, the OGs are stuck around. You have Kevin Kelly's true fan base already, the ride or die scenario here,
sure.
where they're totally tethered to the hip with Aggie and Matt, no matter what happens, outside of the fact that Amazon may blow up or whatever.
Well, I mean, it's just funny because now I feel like I'm in the wrong place because I don't disagree with you, but it seems like we are in the, as you said, we're surrounded by these smart, poor / frugal people when I really want to be around the rich, dumb people because
that's the Ethereum network. That's Polygon. Exactly. That's Matic.
What am I doing here? I need to be around the rich, dumb people.
Avalanche of the world, and this is why I say everyone should own when Gala and the market tanks and Immutable. It's good to diversify, to pick up some of those things.
So should I go buy some Gala right now?
I wouldn't buy. I mean, Gala's up a lot. It's just like I wouldn't buy too many Ron tokens. It's up over 400%, hitting 500 today. Whatever it is in recent run. So it's trailing average. It's just too much. So just be patient, I think.
Yeah, this might be a question you can help Faded Glory with. Know a way to convert SLP, Ron, and AXS into Hive?
Yeah, so they're on different L2. So the only way is to move it from the Ronin network bridge it back to Ethereum with your MetaMask, and then from there you can transfer using the Hive engine. Depending on so if you're using like ETH, you have to convert everything to ETH because that's the only the major downside is that ETH is not an acceptable product on Hive, so to speak, because it has low liquidity. So what you're going to have to do is figure out you're either going to move it to another exchange that has Hive, or you're just going to buy a DEC on Uniswap with the Ethereum piece, and then migrate the DEC to Hive that way.
Or the Splinterlands bridge,
yeah. So that's what you're going to have to do.
Oh, all right. Bitcoin almost 25K. Yay. That's probably why I think they will walk back the Soulbound thing. Interesting. Tournaments and brawls. Well, gets certain specific sets. Soulbound, not to reward and acts like a ghost card solution.
Oh yeah, Rick is spot on, man. But we did talk about these exploits. It's just I don't think the team listens.
I think one nuance. Sorry, I didn't catch all of what he said. So I think one nuance being missed by this conversation are that outstanding issues for bot decks can be tackled by game design. Making changes in game can prevent a lot of these things. Edge cases could have been addressed and planned for ahead of time, though. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not solvable. I'm just saying that they. We were on the topic of unintended consequences, right? So what are the things that are now popping up? Where am I seeing the motivations to like make more or get more out of the game? Because if I have that kind of like urge or that inkling, somebody with way more motivation and resources is probably already taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, to Alex's comment, I think PKM is it's a long-term in terms of the Hive ecosystem. I think if Jarvie does it right, it's probably the preeminent token.
You stop teasing Jarvie.
I didn't realize this. It took a really, really smart economist, a friend of mine, to point this out. Who doesn't even play the game, and you'll love him because he only believes in Bitcoin.
Oh, I love him because he only believes in Bitcoin. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He holds a crap load of Bitcoin.
I'm holding some ETH. I'm actually still buying some ETH too. You know what gets me with ETH right now, because it's so close. It's so close. I don't like the move to proof of stake, and then the censorship stuff that's been happening recently. I feel like that can only get worse. Not that the Ethereum community wants that. I just feel like when push comes to shove, I
But
worry
that's
about
probably the
what'll
best thing to happen to the Ethereum community. I think sometimes people look at things as a negative, but the reality is that's probably the best thing
The censorship?
that would. Oh yeah, a lot of the governments tackling ETH. It just when government says no or they're challenging it, it just means that they're questioning it. That's all, and it is just the way governments of the world works.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like Bitcoin maxis are crazy, right? I mean, some of these Bitcoin maxis are
I
crazy.
don't know. So the same friend, like I sent him one ETH, and then 2 days later he sent it back to me.
Wait, why?
He doesn't. He likes Bitcoin.
No, I mean, I like Bitcoin, but I'll take a free ETH. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. I think what everyone put is a set limit of Soulbound. I love how Foyet has everyone saying flywheel for months now. That's what it is. So Rick is saying, I am just saying that a lot of times these exploits are brought up after something new is announced and not while it's still being planned out. Should be reverse order. Fair enough. More self-inflicted.
Yeah, I mean, we a bunch of us, we talk about it on Discord, but I guess it wasn't directly at the team. But yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, I don't know that this stuff isn't fixable. It just will need to be addressed at some point.
It's like a 4 or 5 year fix.
Yeah.
So when you look at the exploit for the DEC piece for the SPS airdrop, it's probably fixable over a 3 to 4 year period. This is probably a 4+ year fix.
Mm-hmm. Actually, so because Rick's here saying when the team makes an announcement first and then gets feedback after, it creates bad blood. I wonder, Weird, if your council, like leadership council, will actually help with this. You got a lot of smart potential minds in there, and I would love for them to be able to give.
Our community is really smart, I think.
Yeah.
Just based on the conversations I've had with people. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know if the final results have been announced, but all the people who are potentially up for a vote, I mean, they're all, brilliant or at least very knowledgeable about the community, the ecosystem, and crypto in general. So hopefully that'll be an effective way for you to help the team get feedback before rather than after. Virus is saying, knowing SPL team moves, if the Soulbound become a big problem in the future, they can make Soulbound rewards where you can play one. If you play more, you would get reduced rewards.
Yeah, or they, I don't know. That's a harsh, but they can add a rule set and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you're a bot, as long as you're making 1 cent profitable, you'll do it. Because you have 10,000 accounts, at 1 cent adds up.
Well, I mean, even if you only have one account, if you're not putting any new money into it, then it's just it's profit in perpetuity, right?
And there's no skin off your back because you're not even running, you're not even expending the energy, the server space.
I know.
It's nothing that, a penny is a penny. I mean, penny earned, just like Ben Franklin,
Yeah.
It's I mean, I think people I think the Splinterlands team, I think at times they underestimate how frugal the community is and how smart the community is when it comes to monetizing them.
Yeah. I mean, I love Aggie, but he always comes out with this whole like, oh, everybody wants more for less, right? It's just like, that just sounds smart to me. Like, I mean, like I want this ecosystem to succeed, but yeah, if there's an opportunity for me to get more for less, like boom, I'm on board. But I get it, right? Like I get where he's coming from. So it's just funny because it's just like give anybody that opportunity, that we're all going to think the same.
Yes, we're human nature, and
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Is GLX playable now? No.
No.
If anything, I would say that the proposal yesterday for the GLX rewards probably means that they're just trying to front run some news about delays. The only the good thing though with that is they did put a date in there, June 6th. Now I don't know what June 6th represents outside of just being the 6th day of June, but it seems as though that is like the final date that we can expect the game, which is great actually. I would love if they did that with more things. Again, I'm not saying that they even did that, but if they just put like a final date and said like, we want to get this out by this date at the latest, and you knew that they could stick to it, then Boom. So at this point, I'm expecting GLX to be playable, not beta, but actually playable on June 6th. So,
Yep.
But GLX has been going up lately. Yeah, I mean, I think there's potential with the platform. I don't know. What do you think of GLX overall? I know you haven't been paying attention to it, and you don't necessarily care about the sports side, but
I actually care. It's just the game. I play a lot of NBA. I play the
Sure.
Madden series. Sadly I play those Xbox games and stuff that it's just fun with the different people.
I'm
it's
not going
it's
to
just
shame
fun.
you for playing Web 2 games.
Well, it's the so I look at games like so if you were to stack a game, and this is kind of one of the channels my channel talk about. It's basically the money side is the lowest, but in order for you to evaluate a game based on the money, the economic return, it has to have like great leadership, right? It has to have a great community. It has to have that gameplay, the piece of it. And then when you look at the tokenomics, the piece, that's really at the end of check marking all that stuff is when you can evaluate the money. And if the money's not there, when you just don't play it. And that's the difference, the monumental difference between a Web 2 and a Web 3, because a Web 2 has all that stuff check marked already. And then, the only difference is the player based on how much we get paid and can you make a living playing video games.
I feel like the whole "can you make a living playing video games" kind of got us into this mess in the first place.
Oh yeah, I think this is the beauty of what Aggie and Matt, and they're brave enough to be able to push this evolutionary curve, is to say you can create a business within the actual game. We can create an environment, an ecosystem where you can plop and you can be a card lord, you can build land, you can create all this, and it's fantastic what Aggie and Matt is doing. They just I think there's some areas, and I don't know their finances, what their plans are, their roadmap outside of what they talk about, but I don't know what their business model is, what they're trying to do, but at the end of the day, I applaud them. I definitely appreciate I'm a huge fan of Matt and Aggie and what they're trying to do, for sure.
That I actually do love that approach. It gets me excited for land, and I'm not a big land holder, but when they talk about like creating your own business, I mean, people have done that already with cards and card rentals, and that market is a little too volatile for me. But the reason that I actually love the Splinterlands ecosystem and economy so much is because, and I've said this before, it's robust enough to build businesses on top of. Now, businesses in game can be a little crazy, a little wonky right now, because mostly it's just cards, right? Being a card lord, renting or delegating or whatever the case is, and card values are all over the place. I don't know what it's going to be like with land, but I can imagine it's going to be maybe a little bit more stable. But you look at Splex, you look at Archmage, you look at Peak Monsters, like all of these are tangential businesses built on the Splinterlands economy. Now, I don't know what the financials, I don't know if they're in the green or in the red, but I do know that they're making money from providing a service to the Splinterlands ecosystem. And to me, that's always represented something that is like very impressive compared to a lot of other games that I've researched, right? And again, I've never dug into another game as much as I have with Splinterlands, but just the fact that we have a lot of these different resources is awesome.
Yeah, and I'll give you, so Stever 82 said as a region owner, you need up to 5,000 max cards. That is a correct empirical statement, but the problem is when you are actually a region owner and you own that, you would strive to that 5,000 max cards, but you would pick based on the token, based on Rooney, based on things that you can monetize, whether you're at castles, keeps, depending on the whole white paper, how Matt. And then what you would do is you would, as a business owner, this is what I mean, the Splinterlands community is smarter than I think what the team gives them or what the team makes a statement for, is that you would take it and you would say, okay, I'll take 500 land plot, right? And I'll try to build it based on what I have, the current cards, and I can kind of take it and I can look at the present value, and I can from an accounting perspective, I'll look at the future value and how long it takes for me to get my ROI depending on the value, and then also what may matter is the specific focus that you're going to say, because the different type of products that the land will produce, it'll shift because it's a market, right? So what happens is certain products would maybe valuable this month or today, but maybe stone or some other stuff may be more valuable. So you're going to have to build these mechanisms to be able to produce these things, and you're kind of evolving around that. So you're already distracted based on that, and whether the teams flex or peak creates these types of choices that you have from in order to kind of maximize your return. And I think it's one of the few areas that you can actually look at and say it can be a true min-max experience. Land can be a true min-max experience. So when you're looking at true min-max, you're looking at the present value and your money, how it operates, right? The return of it. So you wouldn't really put all your money into it to try to max the 5,000 cards immediately, because you want your land, just like in the real world, right? You want your land to produce and pay for itself. So you're looking at, how can I get my land to the point where I make a penny a day, right? How can I optimize it, put in the amount of money invested, at what period of time will I start to be profitable? And then when you're profitable, then you look at, okay, how much do I need to dump to reinvest into the land, and how many other lands can I buy? Or because you're looking at a specific area, region, and then you're looking at, okay, who's struggling, who can I negotiate, and how can I acquire their land, because their land just makes more sense for me than to just buy in another region. I just want to own the, how can I own 51% of this region? And, you talk about things like the secret of Pretoria, all the stuff that goes into it, right? And you're talking about, castles and keeps and things like that. It's like, okay, am I better served just dumping DEC into the castles and keeps, right? Because you get a percentage of it. And chances are, if you're thinking like that, you may already own it. And so you have to, so land becomes like a spreadsheet mechanism. And then whether, Splex or Peak wants to create this automated spreadsheet mechanism to help you min-max based on like your land. So what I imagine one of the utility for PKM is that, depending on your utility, and I don't want to keep on giving it to Jarvie, but he can and he'll think through. I mean, he's a smart guy, and Jarvie's been around, and he's an OG, so he's you look at it, you look at your account, you immediately sign on with your Hive account, it'll automatically create a dashboard that will show you how to min-max it, and at what time period and where to invest. And what it is you take your land, you have an initial investment, and it does the whole sequence does it all by themselves and manages the money, and it automatically, you agree to allow it to rebuild and move the structure based on the availability of the supply and demand.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree. There's a lot of services that you'll be able to provide once that's there. And land is going to complicate things, I think, in a good way for the current player base. So Luke is saying he makes 10 cents a day, not even a full 1 BCX set. Hey, 10 cents a day is pretty good. So this is interesting. Kevin's saying, what I currently find a problem is that my rental cost is way more than I can get in rewards. I can't sell the SPS directly since it requires the staking, can't sell cards. So now it's all payment up front with no direct return.
Correct.
So, what's funny is, I mean, obviously that's like a symptom or effect of like the current market that we're in, where the reward token SPS is depressed so much. But it's interesting that if it's not cost effective now, wouldn't rental costs only go up over time? As well, I guess it'll go up, maybe not directly proportionally with the rise of SPS, but this is why I say like that. At the end of the day, most players are looking at this as an ROI play, right? Am I getting more out of the game than I'm putting in? So.
Yeah, what you'll notice is land will cause a depletion of the older cards. the alpha, beta, and some of the olders. And as we get into, I think where you'll notice a significant difference, and where land makes a huge difference, is when we get to the replacement set for Chaos Legion and the Riftwatcher mini set piece of it. And so you'll run all the other older cards into it, and then you'll and as you can see, like with rank play, there are more transactions in modern. Modern pays less than Wild right now. Wild pays out, has a better payout. Just because the number of cards and people just planning, and it's just the way bots work. It's just economically better.
Yeah, no, I agree. Steve is saying, I'm pretty hyped for land. It's going to be the first time we have a mode in the game where the whales can really whale out on leaderboard.
Oh yeah,
to be
automatically
king or emperor, I think.
Yeah, I think the titles will be fun and interesting too. It'll create a little bit of competition, and I look at this to be like the continental staking for League of Kingdoms. Now you stake the token to get rewards based on your kingdom's contribution to the quarterly events, and so this is kind of the same way. And I like this level of competition, and this is what makes like games, the Web3 gaming so much more controversial and dramatic than traditional Web 2, right? Web 2, it's easy to flex, right? You get skins, you pay $1 million. People that will plop $1.5 million into these things over the life of a Web 2, and they'll flex it, and they have some fun, but there isn't that kind of experience, and this is where kind of the uniqueness of it.
Yeah. All right. State of Survival saying you can't look at SPL as an investment yet. It has to be treated like a game. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been ever since the bear market.
I think people are making a mistake if they're not treating Splinterlands as an investment, because I think eventually, because you have to look at the end result, right? The present value of something. So you know that SPS will run up to 3 billion, and most likely it'll eventually get burned through mechanisms, because at the end of the day, these are just the things, right? Eventually, it may take 7 years for DEC to get burnt out, to be depleted to a point where it's manageable, but it'll get there, right? So then SPS will create this. I don't think it'll eventually, SPS it'll initially be a primary flywheel where you're burning the SPS or the DEC piece, but there are so many mechanics that go into it where eventually DEC, the SPS availability will fall. The actual total available on the supply will be less than 1 million.
Yeah, liquid.
1.5 billion. Yeah, no total, just total from 3 billion to 1.5 billion. And I think this is where the value, and then see the beauty of a token of a game, and I look at this, there's a lot of examples to this, is I look at this to traditional stock. It's like people overpay for certain types of stock, like Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, or what have you, is they're paying on future intrinsic value of something. So like an SPS token, when it gets depleted to the point where the supply becomes a challenge, and this is where Ethereum will outrun Bitcoin too, and others will outrun Ethereum in the future as well. It's just a matter of supply and mathematics. It's just that's something that will happen. So what happens is eventually you'll look at SPS and you'll say, it's worth 50 cents. It's really like its base intrinsic value, its current present value is 50 cents, but then I can't get it. I can't get enough, and I'm trying to do this transaction, and I know I need it for the next 3 months. So you have a player, they'll plan for 3 months, let's say, right? And again, this comes to the acceptance. I believe that Splinterlands community is smarter than the average community. So they'll do like a 3-month planning, and they'll say, I need X number. And they'll say, I can't acquire enough of it in 3 months. So what do I do? Do I buy it at 50 cents, as many as I can, and then do I pay? It'll go up, or they'll be on Hive or wherever, and they'll just kind of continue to slow buy these things in the background. But eventually, it just gets to the point where they're competing against each other, and it's just a matter. Then it comes down to, it's like a huge demand for SPS, and now you're no longer paying intrinsic, you're no longer paying fair value, you're no longer paying. You're just like, damn it, I just need it to, so I can do this transaction in the
Yeah.
in the game. I just needed to move it, and this is like what makes Ron so valuable. It's only 1 billion, and you need it to supply for all your transactions you have to pay. And I think this is where Splinterlands kind of shot themselves in the foot, is that they rely on Hive for their ECR, for all their high power. And when a gaming ecosystem like so Avalanche tried to do the same thing with Hive, right? A kind of similar vein is that when you get a game to be completely dependent on the L1, then it loses a lot of its inherent value, and it loses a lot of the leverage.
Okay, hold on, because you had a lot in there. The first part of what you were saying was, I've just been saying that I don't think that people should be viewing it as an investment, because I think a lot of people just are coming in with the wrong kind of time horizons or time preferences. So that's what I mean when I say that. Obviously, I'm still looking at a lot of the stuff.
That time is when we came in. Now is a great time.
Well, now is a great time, but that doesn't mean it's going to go straight up. And in fact, I still think that there's potential for it to go down.
But it's not going to be a large. I mean, SPS is.
It's already down like 98%, or 97% or something like that.
I mean, and plus, like if you notice the number of whales that have been purchasing it when it falls below 3 cents, and then when it falls below in the 2.5, and you'll see the number of people picking it up. So that means that in my mind, there's enough money out there, large money, that's willing to put some amount of money. I mean, I think Splinterlands and Hive is not going to attract people who are going to be net worth of hundreds of millions or even billionaires. Sure. It'll mint billionaires like 30 years from now, or things like that. But it's not going to be attracting those types of people.
Those types of people right now.
Yeah, because you're not getting that kind of return.
I mean, the other thing you did, so for comparing ecosystems, right? Axie or Ronin to Splinterlands, you're saying Splinterlands relies on Hive, which is the L1, but essentially isn't Axie then relying on Ronin, which is, I mean, it's technically
they own
L2.
Ronin.
I know they own Ronin, but it's still relying on it in the same kind of relationship, isn't it?
It's a symbiotic relationship, so it's a smoother relationship where you're forcing. So you can, when you own something, you can force and drive the desired incentives, and that's the difference.
Well, okay, so I'm curious. What are they doing that the Splinterlands team can't do because they don't own Hive?
Well, it's one of the decisions Matt made to kind of create where he's not charging a fee. Like Ronin, you need Ronin to transact for everything, so it's a cost. Ronin is the fee. SPS is not the fee. Hive is the fee to do all your ECR.
I know, but the thing is, like, isn't the SPS equivalent the AXS token? No. It shouldn't be the SPS equivalent to the Ronin token.
No.
Because players playing Axie aren't getting paid in Ronin, are they?
No.
They're getting paid in AXS, or they're getting paid in SLP.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering why you keep making that parallel.
Because to Splinterlands, you need Hive, and we have no control over Hive.
Okay. I get that. I just feel like Hive should be compared to the Ronin token.
Yeah, yes, except the difference is it's not owned, so that means you have no control. Then that's the comparison, is the fact that Splinterlands has no control over the Hive piece, and so because of that, there's no way that we can't. So this is why staking SPS is so imperative, right? It's just like forcing staking on land, and why I think every time they Splinterlands, and Rick is on here, he can chime in and things like that. Every time they spend any resource time on tournaments, it takes away so much economic value that they can produce when it comes to guild, right? And one can say, yeah, you can put in like effort. It's development time. It's like human beings. When we 100% focus on something, we produce such asymmetric return, volumes of return, bodies of work. It's like Alexander Hamilton talking about his ability to write and focus on some of these. He can produce large volumes, and this is where I think focusing on getting utility from SPS and creating that and creating the land piece to eat up the cards. And the faster they can do that, the faster they can get new players.
Okay, I mean, I don't disagree on that. Okay, so I know you got to run soon, so we can actually wrap up here. Let me just catch up on some of the chat. Let's see where people are at. Steve was talking about what two phone game. Up a lot there. I hope you actually have to play on land, not just load up cards and click.
Or the arena
DeFi platform. Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be opportunities in the future, but for the first iteration of it, I would. I mean, I don't know what your expectations are, but I've seen some wild expectations out there, and I would lower it for V1, phase 1.5, or phase 2, whatever you want to call it. Again, no such thing as min-max, only maximizing ROI or reducing input. Both at the same time, that doesn't work. All right. I'm at a point that it would be incredibly unlikely for me to not profit in this game. Luke, you're in a great position then. I came in investment and now play more. Still have my account taken up. Who doesn't? Cool. All right. Well, we've caught up with chat. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. Oh shoot! I wanted to do the giveaway. You got a couple minutes for that, or if you
Sure.
gotta hop off, that's cool too.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see if I can pull up this wheel. We're gonna some any death. All right. Oh, you can't see what I'm looking at, can you? Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so this is for the Super Bowl entries from Sunday's stream. All right, guys. So I just want to do it here. Now, there's only 4 names of people that picked the winning team. Most people actually picked the Eagles to win. So the 4 people entered in for today's giveaway of a Jared Scar are Virus, U-D-Ow. I know it's you, London. Oops. 20.
Yeah, especially if Matt cuts the number of vouchers that's going to be given. Gathering the Magic will be making bank.
I mean, I'm gonna need to see more voucher utility before I'm get excited about that.
I personally don't know why people would even sell their vouchers. I would just hold on.
Because it's just at this point free money that doesn't have any value.
But think of it. If I were to say you can have 10 cents or 8 cents or 7 cents now, and versus 3 years from now, you can have it for $3 or $5.
Well, I mean, you can actually have it now. I can have it as $3 off of a pack right now if I wanted to. All right.
Yes, you can. That's you have to wait for the pack sale. Yes.
Well, no, I mean, I could buy tower defense packs if I wanted to buy them from the store for $8. I could,
correct,
or 8,000 DEC, but I could save 3,000 DEC.
Yep.
All right.
So if you
let's
were
go ahead
going to utilize it, yeah, for sure.
But I mean, I agree with you. If you don't need the capital, then there's no need for you to be selling your vouchers. But a lot of times, I mean, even for myself, right? I sell them. Sorry, London, you're the first one out. I sell them because I would rather take that capital and maybe use it towards buying a card for my deck right now, right? Like the future value doesn't hold as much. Yeah, the future value doesn't hold as much for me as like the present. Sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh! All right, between Virus and Malden, good luck. Remember, it is not who it lands on that wins. It is who it doesn't land on. And Virus, sorry, my man. It is going to Malden. So congratulations, Malden. I don't even know if you're here right now. Virus, I know you were so close. Now, you guys did pick the winning team, so congrats on that. You can hang your hat there. All right. I won some DECB. Had Hive buying burning vouchers.
Vouchers the best for the DEC conversion, yeah.
Yeah, right now for DECB, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes a ton of sense.
It's an awesome use.
Cool, man. Well, this was fun as usual. Appreciate you hopping in. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll be back on Sunday most likely. But have an amazing rest of your week and an awesome weekend ahead, guys. And Malden, I'll send that out to you shortly. Peace.